Under the colorless canvas of the afternoon sky, the old New England town had a shroud of melancholy draped around it, a picturesque setting that breathed history and whispered tales of the past. In the heart of this timeless space, Sara Hennigan owned a quaint little antique store, an alcove of treasures salvaged from the crypt of time. Sara's world was filled with relics, ancient phonographs sang songs from forgotten eras, 18th century vases sheltered dust particles older than herself, and time-worn furniture bore the weight of untold secrets. The mysterious hum of her antiquated haven was a symphony she was attuned to, an orchestra she had mastered. But that was until the day the mirror entered her store, and her life. It was a Tuesday when she found the mirror, in a musty estate sale that smelled of mothballs and despair. It was no ordinary object, but an impressive artifact, ornately framed in gold, its glass stained by the ghostly touch of time. A strange attraction pulled Sara towards it, a curiosity kindled by the auctioneer's enticing words. From the famed Whitlock mansion, he had said, his voice layered with intrigue. The talk of haunted tales and mysterious mishaps, the grandiose appeal of the mirror, amplified by the thrilling history, proved irresistible to Sara. She felt an inexplicable connection, a whispering lure that pulled her towards it. The mirror seemed to beckon her, beguiling her with its quiet yet powerful magnetism. Sold. She heard herself declare, a sense of triumphant acquisition dawning upon her. Sara had always been a sucker for items with a mysterious history. Little did she know, this particular artifact would change her life irrevocably. She brought the mirror into her store, placing it near a dusty corner where an ancient grandfather clock ticked steadily, a silent testimony to the relentless passage of time. No sooner had she set the mirror in its place than an unseasonable chill pervaded the room, the first whispers of a horror yet unknown. In the ensuing days, Sara's quaint antique store began to behave strangely, like an age-old actor rehearsing a new, ominous play. There was an eerie disquiet that lingered in the air, a spectral essence that had crept in with the antique mirror. Strange noises began to echo within the store walls. A chilly draft of wind always seemed to hover near the mirror, and items began relocating themselves, their positions altered as if touched by an unseen hand. Even the daylight filtering through the store window seemed to lose its warmth, becoming cold and pallid, much like the mirror's surface. Shadows played mischievous games, darting across the room when caught by the corner of the eye. Sara was no stranger to the peculiar, but this was different. This was unsettling. The mirror stood there, silent yet vocal, its surface reflecting the quaint antiquities of the store but seemed to hold something back, a secret trapped within its old, shadowed glass. There was a sense of foreboding that Sara could not shake off, a chilling whisper that filled her dreams. One morning, as Sara arrived to unlock her store, she found a trail of frost leading to the mirror. It was a summer day, the morning sun blanketing the town with comforting warmth. But there, in her store, the cold was tangible and biting, radiating from the mirror like a silent scream. Feeling the knot of fear tighten in her gut, she approached the mirror, her reflection pale in its darkened surface. As she peered into the glass, she could swear it held something more than her terrified reflection. It was as though something peered back at her, its gaze piercing her soul, sending an icy shiver down her spine. The world outside moved on, oblivious to the terrifying transformation of Sara's world. Her sanctuary of antiques was no longer a place of historic charm but a chamber of secrets, echoing with whispers of an unspeakable horror. The mirror was not just a portal to the past but a doorway for something far more sinister. As the whispers grew louder, Sara realized she had invited not just an object into her store, but a ghost from a forgotten time, a chilling narrative that was just beginning to unfold. Driven by a mix of terror and curiosity, Sara started digging into the past of the mirror. The local library became her refuge, the smell of old books and the rustling sound of turning pages becoming a soothing balm to her frayed nerves. Through weathered newspaper clippings, moth-eaten journals, and decaying local lore, she began piecing together the mosaic of the mirror's sinister past. The mirror had once adorned the stately Whitlock mansion, a residence synonymous with luxury, power, and a gloom that seemed inherent to such historical riches. The Whitlocks, a wealthy family from the 19th century, were said to have procured the mirror as a gift. However, the giver was no well-wisher but a scorned lover, a woman the whispers of history painted as a witch. Sara could almost envision the woman, in her dark cloak, eyes aflame with vengeance, casting a curse on the mirror. A shiver trickled down her spine as she pictured the ominous object hanging in the heart of the mansion, its cursed presence unseen yet palpable. There was more to the tale. The Whitlocks had a young daughter, a beautiful, sprightly child named Abigail. She was known to have an enchanting aura, an infectious laugh, and a peculiar fascination with the mirror. But one fateful night, Abigail vanished. Her disappearance left a void in the mansion, an echo that seemed to resonate from the mirror's reflective surface. The whispers in the town were quick to craft a chilling tale. Abigail was not merely missing, she was trapped inside the mirror. The more Sara delved into the mystery, the more the chilling whispers seemed to make sense. An unease clung to her as the shadows of the Whitlock mansion's tale began seeping into her own reality. The little girl's tragic story, woven into the fabric of local legend, mirrored the mysterious happenings in her store. One late night, as the antique store lay wrapped in silence, Sara found herself alone with the mirror. The clock's rhythmic ticking was a steady drumbeat, punctuating the quiet. The room was dimly lit by a solitary lamp, its light casting long, eerie shadows that seemed to quiver with each tick of the clock. With a deep breath, she approached the mirror, her heart pounding with dread and anticipation. As she peered into the glass, the room's reflection seemed to distort, waver, and then change. Instead of her antique store, Sara saw a grand room, a tableau from a bygone era, and there, amidst the rich tapestry of the past, she saw her. A little girl, with a face as pale as moonlight and eyes that held centuries of sadness. It was Abigail, her spectral figure floating in the mirror's silvery sheen. Sara felt a gasp strangle in her throat as the whispers grew louder, the girl's soft voice sailing over the winds of time. "Help me." She felt an icy finger of terror trace down her spine as the reality of her situation gripped her. She had not merely bought a mirror but had acquired a portal to a past horror. An innocent soul was entrapped in her store, a prisoner of a curse cast by a vengeful witch, and Sara was the unsuspecting jailer. With a newfound resolve, she vowed to right the wrongs of history. Sara was determined to free Abigail, no matter what horrors she had to face. And little did she know, horrors there would be aplenty. Haunted by the image of Abigail's spectral figure trapped within the mirror and her eerie plea for help, Sara delved deeper into the dark chasm of the past, relentlessly seeking a means to free the child's spirit. The whispers grew louder, not only in the stillness of her store but in her dreams, the voice of the long-lost girl echoing in the recesses of her mind. Buried in ancient tomes and forgotten scrolls, Sara found reference to rituals of liberation, methods to unshackle the shackled and give respite to trapped souls. These chronicles of the occult, inked in fear and sealed with apprehension, held the key to Abigail's release. Sara clung to this newfound hope with a desperation that made her oblivious to the ominous warning signs. Even as Sara began gathering the ritualistic elements, the dried herbs with their musky scent, the black candles that smelled of wax and foreboding, the ancient symbols to be drawn, her world grew increasingly distorted. The antique store became a labyrinth of eerie shadows and phantom echoes. Yet, Sara remained undeterred, the innocent plea from the mirror driving her onwards. One day, as she was engrossed in deciphering a particularly cryptic ritual, an old historian from the local museum visited her store. In the dust-laden sunlight streaming through the window, he appeared as an entity from the past, his deep-set eyes reflecting the wisdom of time. He had heard rumors about Sara's obsession with the Whitlock mirror and had come with a warning. "The past is a dangerous thing to meddle with," he cautioned, his voice as grave as a tombstone. "Do not disturb what has been laid to rest. Some doors, once opened, cannot be closed again." His words, though ominous, fell on deaf ears as Sara, fueled by a blend of fear and resolve, vowed to set Abigail free. Driven by a conviction that seemed to eclipse her fear, Sara prepared for the ritual. As darkness cloaked the town, the antique store was alit with an ethereal glow. The black candles flickered, casting dancing shadows upon the walls. The dried herbs burnt, releasing a musky aroma that filled the room. Symbols drawn in chalk crisscrossed the floor, their ancient meanings whispered in the silent air. At the heart of it all was the mirror, its glass reflecting the flickering candlelight, making the room seem as if it was underwater, drowned in an ocean of shadows and secrets. As Sara began chanting from the forgotten script, a cold gust swept across the room, causing the candles to flicker violently. Her voice wavered, but she continued, her words resounding in the echo chamber of her store, ringing against the antique artifacts. The mirror responded to her words, its glass rippling like disturbed water. As the ritual reached its climax, Sara called out to Abigail, her voice trembling but determined. A spectral figure began to take shape in the mirror, a formless shadow that slowly solidified into the sad, beautiful figure of Abigail. In that moment, Sara felt a shudder of anticipation and dread. The echoes of the historian's warning reverberated in her mind, but it was too late to turn back. As the final words of the ritual fell from her lips, the mirror erupted in an explosion of spectral light. She had expected relief, a sensation of release. But instead, the haunting intensified. Objects flew across the room, propelled by an unseen force. The air chilled until her breath misted in front of her. Whispers morphed into screams, and unseen hands seemed to claw at her from the darkness. Sara felt a presence, something ancient and evil. The mirror, instead of a prison, had become a doorway. Her antique store, once a sanctuary of historic charm, was now a house of horror. The ritual had not freed an innocent soul. Instead, it had awakened a terror far more sinister, a specter that lurked in the mirror's reflection. In the aftermath of the ritual, Sara's quaint antique store became a stage for escalating terrors. The spectral light from the mirror bathed the room in an otherworldly glow, the shadows it cast as twisted as the dread gnawing at Sara's heart. A suffocating dread filled the store, the air so thick it was like wading through a nightmare. Objects levitated, suspended in the air before hurtling across the room, shattering against the walls. The whispers had evolved into terrifying screams, the words distorted and charged with an ancient fury. Sara felt invisible fingers clutching at her, icy and insistent, making her skin crawl. Every reflective surface, not just the mirror, became a playground for spectral shapes, dancing in the corner of her eyes. More terrifying were her encounters with Abigail. The girl's apparition was no longer confined to the mirror but wandered the store, her spectral figure shimmering under the pale light. Her innocent eyes were now windows to a terror beyond comprehension. Her pleas for help transformed into screams of horror. Sara was no longer a shopkeeper but a prisoner in her own store, the specter from the mirror dictating her waking and sleeping hours. Each tick of the antique grandfather clock was a reminder of the perpetual nightmare she was living. Yet, despite the escalating horror, Sara felt a responsibility. She had opened the door to this malevolent force, and it was her duty to banish it. This thought gave her the strength to face each terrifying moment, the resolve to restore peace, and the hope to release Abigail from her timeless prison. In the heart of the storm she had summoned, Sara prepared for another ritual, not of liberation, but of banishment. But the path was fraught with peril, each step leading her closer to the unspeakable horror that now resided in her antique store. In her desperation, Sara sought out the old historian, the bearer of the initial warning. As she recounted the horrifying aftermath of her ritual, his face paled, his eyes reflecting the horror of her narrative. Yet, amidst the terror, he seemed to find an unexpected revelation. The soul in the mirror was not Abigail's, he declared, his voice barely above a whisper. His words hung in the air like an ominous fog, shrouding the room in a chilling silence. The historian looked at Sara with an expression that was a terrible blend of fear and pity. He revealed a lesser-known part of the Whitlock's tale. The witch, scorned by her unrequited love, had indeed cast a curse, but not on the innocent Abigail. The mirror was a trap meant for the Whitlocks. But Abigail, who had a peculiar bond with the witch and had learned a little witchcraft, turned the tables. She had trapped the vengeful witch in the mirror, the eternal prison she intended for others. The truth struck Sara like a bolt of lightning, sending a wave of cold dread washing over her. The echoes of Abigail's pleas, the spectral figure in the mirror, and the unleashed horror, they all added up. The soul she'd been trying to free was not the innocent Abigail but the malevolent witch. The pleas were not cries of help, they were a lure, a deceitful web spun by the witch. Horror-stricken by the revelation, Sara felt the walls of reality crumble around her. She had not freed an innocent spirit, but instead unleashed an ancient evil into her world. The guilt was crushing, the fear paralyzing. But amidst this whirlpool of emotions, she found a sliver of resolve. She had caused this, and she would amend it. Fueled by a newfound urgency, Sara raced against the ticking clock. Guided by the historian, she delved once more into the world of the arcane. This time, she sought not to liberate, but to trap, to force the vengeful spirit back into its glassy prison. Her once charming antique store was now an echoing chamber of horror, each shadow thrumming with a spectral presence. But Sara moved forward, her fear taking a back seat to the desperate need to right her wrongs. The rituals she had once performed with a sense of intrigue, she now executed with grim determination. As she prepared for the final confrontation, an unexpected ally joined her cause. Abigail, the innocent victim in all this, began appearing to Sara, her spectral form offering silent support. Guided by the young spirit and armed with the historian's wisdom, Sara felt a spark of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. In a climactic battle against the unleashed witch, Sara wielded her courage and the knowledge of the arcane. The store trembled with spectral energy, the mirror pulsating like a heart, its glassy surface an eerie, shifting tableau of their struggle. Using her wits and driven by desperation, Sara managed to turn the tables on the spectral witch. With the unexpected help of Abigail's spirit, they forced the witch back into her mirror prison, the spectral light retreating, the glass surface returning to normal. Finally, the antique store was once again just a collection of historical relics, the spectral screams replaced by the familiar, comforting silence. The mirror was once more an object of the past, the terror it had housed banished. Sara had faced the unspeakable horror and had emerged victorious, the horrifying ordeal serving as a chilling reminder of the consequences of disturbing the past.